Hello there. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good evening. Good night. Wherever you are. Good night. Well, I say good night and good morning and good evening. I don't know. It's such a good day for many people. Such sadness in the land of our birth in Guyana. Such sadness. But anyhow, we are here. We are here. Give thanks and praise to being allowed to be here in the land of the living. I want to give praise and thanks for being here on the land of the living. And I'm sure many of you would want to do the same. So welcome to another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Today, Wednesday, the 24th day of May, 2023. We are here ready to go. My colleague is already in the studio. We are ready to go. We have so much to talk about this morning, so much to talk about. Such tragedy over the past 7 days. I mean, when we were here last Wednesday, we left here and we said, God spared life. We're going to be here today. God has spared our lives, but so many lives have been taken in such tragic circumstances. So let's give praise and thanks to being here. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. So welcome. And you know the drill by now. Share the live. We have record numbers, a record number of youth students, faithful, loyal students who are on the in YouTube. Long before we get started, I'm going to do the roll call. You know, some people are not comfortable with roll call because it takes up a lot of time. A particular man tell me when you go to the movie, he wants to see trailer, he wants to see shots, he wants to see the main event. I understand that, but roll call is important. We have to know who are present and those who, for some reason or the other, are absent. And you know, you don't lose out because of the roll call, because we extend the time. Whatever time is spent on roll call, we extend the time. I reminded you that when we started some time ago, we went for 1 hour and then we extended to 90 minutes. And now almost routinely we go for about 2 hours. On one occasion, we went as long as about 3 hours. Somebody is saying, Leroy is saying the roll call is too long, but we're going to see what we can do about it. We're going to see, maybe we do it in phases. But yes, it's good to be here this morning. As I've said, record numbers of persons on YouTube waiting for the program to be started. And then we also have, since we went live, the Facebookers are pouring in. So welcome to one and all these, a lot of former policemen, I don't like to say old police, former policemen are here, and some will put their numbers, some don't. I see many people are here this morning and ready and waiting. And we have a lot to tell you. We're not holding back. You know, we never do. But this morning, we are going to make sure we let you know exactly. It's sad of some of the, the situation with the fire is sad. But to see how some of these things are being handled, it makes it even worse. And we're going to talk about it. And we're giving chance to all of those who would want to come. You know, they listen. So you're going to get some good free advice as to what should be done and how you should deal with these issues. So yes, we are here. As I've said, my colleague is already in the studio. We are here ready to go. Some people said the roll call is too long. So I don't think this morning, the fact that we have so much to talk about, so much, that I don't think we're going to go into any extended roll call. Just to say, however, that the first person, I'd like to big up the first person to be here this morning in class, possibly in class very early. And you see it there, the first person in class this morning, and this is at 6:32 this morning. Very dedicated student was there this morning. And when we went live, a lot of people came in after. So yes, because we have so much to talk about, we're not going to go through the normal roll call. I'm going to take the opportunity from time to time to reach out, to shout out to some persons. Right away, I saw Aunt John is here, Kudawashi is here, many Trifosa, welcome to all of those persons. Everett is saying that roll call is still important. Yes, it is very important. Everett, I haven't forgotten the question that you have asked, but as you have seen, things keep coming up. Urgent things keep popping up, and we have not been able to address that question that you have asked. But we will do so. Have some patience. We will do so. Some of the regulars, Commissioner Cole is here, Kuruwashi is here as well. We have people like Cheryl, Petal, Rick, all those forces are here. My squaddy Sheila, 351, my squaddy Doreen, 349. They're all here waiting, 9340. Lois, is it 40 or 41? Lois is here. And so many persons. The Secretary Dennis is here as well. Mark Barnett is here with us. Lynette from London, Lynette Fraser from London is here. Many persons. Bonita is watching from Alabama. Welcome, Bonita. And we have Raul and the regulars. The regulars are here. We're not gonna go through, as I've said, the long roll call this morning because we have Etta is here as well. She don't miss. Malcolm Ned is here with us. Borough, the man who sits in the chair squaddy, is here with us this morning as well. My colleague, my fellow shooter, John Fraser. Again, John, congratulations on the performance in Antigua recently. John is here with us. Chilo, I hope you find a good spot to make sure that you can watch this program today. He's here with us this morning. Leon Schwartz, Leon, 10025. Lucius, Ian is here with us this morning. Tessa, Queenie, all these forces are here this morning. Jacko, Jarvis, Sagi, Vibert from East Bank, Jakey, they're all here. So let me go into it this morning and to tell you that we have had, as I said, we have some board day to tell you about. Today's board day, we want to wish send out special board day wishes to former Minister Cathy Hughes. She's now Member of Parliament. And we also have the Deputy Commander of Region 6, Davidson, Deputy Superintendent. He celebrates a board day today. Also, Woman Assistant Superintendent Raquel Datson. So I want to wish all of you persons, those three persons, a happy board day, and whoever else may be celebrating a board day today and who would have celebrated board days recently, want to wish you belated board day greetings. So welcome to you one and all. And as we said, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. And we have to give praise and thanks to be in the land of the living. So many persons have died in the last week. This must be the deadliest week from Wednesday to today. It must be the deadliest week in Guyana's history, except, for example, Jonestown. And Jonestown wasn't Guyanese as such, but in terms of Guyanese, you had about 30 persons who died under tragic circumstances over the past week. And let me call out some of them for you. We have, even outside of Guyana, we were greeted with the sad news a few days ago of actor Jim Brown. Those of my vintage, those persons of my vintage, you remember Jim Brown as one of the major black actors in the days, things like 100 Rifles, Dorothy Dozen, and some real nice film you wanted to see. As our old friend used to say, you want to see a picture with Darky in it. So you have people like Jim Brown, Jim Kelly, who else you had? Sidney Poitier, and those persons, we made sure that once a movie was showing with those persons in it, because it was a rare thing in those days to see a black star, a black actor, and especially a black actor in major roles. So Woody Strode, Ken Gampu, those are all persons of that age. So Jim passed away sometime, I think this week or over the weekend. And let me tell you this, I had the privilege some years ago, I think it was 2002, I was in Florida, and I saw Jim Brown cruising in his convertible. I was so excited to see Jim Brown cruising the strip in I think it was in South Beach. So yes, he has passed. And then yesterday morning, I was greeted with the sad news that Marcia Cooper, the sister of the late Senior Superintendent Edmund Cooper, who died in January of this year. Yes, somebody said Treaty Hardway. Thanks, Sean. Treaty Hardway was one of the pictures with Jim Kelly, Jim Brown, and those persons. Yes, Marcia Cooper passed away yesterday morning. Somebody said she was preparing to go to work and she fell down and died. I know the comment was made about stress, and somebody wrote to say that since our brother died, our brother Edmund Cooper, retired, senior superintendent, man with all, they give all these problems. He took on, got stroke, stressed out, and he died. And somebody wrote to say that since our brother died, she had not been the same. Obviously, she was grieving, and she took it on. Yesterday morning, she was preparing to go to work, and she collapsed and died yesterday morning. Tragic. Then again, then the next one we have here, the murder of a Louisiana construction worker. He was found since Sunday or sometime then with his throat slit in Louisiana area. Then we had yesterday a construction worker, the death of a construction worker. He's working somewhere on a building in Sheriff Street, and some beam, they say, fell on him and crushed him to death yesterday. Then yesterday afternoon, when you think it was the other all for the day, yesterday afternoon, 84-year-old Elaine Williams of Buxton, East Coast Demerara, crushed by a garbage truck, just C1 garbage truck. And I read it this morning where she was, apparently she was hearing impaired, walking along the dam, going home. She sells broom, walking, going home. This truck was reversing. The truck was reversing and struck her and killed her yesterday afternoon. And then again, last night, we're hearing about some Terrence Washington, Durban Street. Somebody, he was beaten to death. That is what is being reported. So very sad situation. So many deaths. And of course, we had the 18 students and the one young guy at Madja. And we will go into that in great detail today, because some of the BS that they're telling us, they can't believe. They believe that we're stupid, When, for example, you read the account in today's paper, today's Stabrook News, some of the quotes from the Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Ben, you got to believe that people are stupid. We got to go into that a little bit more. So you had 19 persons, yes, and they say 18 students and this 5-year-old boy who was the son of the caretaker. He died in this fire as well. As I've said, we're going to go into that in great detail this morning. I want to, on behalf of myself, my family, and even the viewers, all our speaking out people, take this opportunity to express condolences to all the relatives, friends, colleagues of the deceased students and those other persons who that died over the past week. Real sad. And before we go any further, let me bring in my colleague, Mr. Conway. And then following that, I'll ask you all, I'll tell you we're going to observe some silence, but let me get Mr. Conway's take on it first. CC, good morning and welcome. I think you're unmute you. Yeah, go ahead, CC. You were muted a while ago.
Good morning. I'm happy to be in the land of the living. You wish to express sympathy to all those persons who passed away. And then I want to express congratulations to Raquel, Assistant Superintendent, Raquel Dodson. I remember one time when I was in training, she was once my secretary. And also to Elton Davison. I want to let him know that he's just one single away from a half century. I let him also know that he cannot hit sixes and fours at will anymore, but the single will do it. And I want to wish him all the best and hope you have a very quiet day in your Amsterdam.
Yeah, Anne is asking, she had asked me sometime on John or brother's number. I did mention it last week, but just in case you missed it, his number was 9039. 9039 was your brother's number. A very good friend of mine. He passed away in 1989, but that was his regulation number. For those of you who are here and listening, like Terrence and these people, 9039 referring to Evans, or we used to call him Cross-Eye. So yeah, right. 9039, correct, that's correct. And now before we proceed any further, I think it is only fitting and right for us to, I'll invite you for us to observe 1 minute silence, a full minute silence in respect of all those persons who passed, especially those 19 that perished in the fire at Madja Secondary School. So 1 minute of silence, let me say this, if you can, wherever you are, I would ask that you stop what you're doing and just observe the silence. If you cannot do so, we understand that. But if you can, just let's observe 1 minute silence, which starts now. Right, may God have mercy on their souls. May their relatives, friends, and the survivors be comforted. That is what we have. The minute has ended. Thank you very much for your cooperation. And we should continue to keep these persons in our prayers. You know, when incidents like these occur, here the politicians and many people, our thoughts and prayers go out to the relatives and friends. And you get to the stage where we have to go beyond thoughts and prayers. We have to go beyond thoughts and prayers. Incidents like these are preventable. Incidents like these are preventable. Just some common sense measures, and they are preventable. Now, let me go into what is being reported. It says, well, this thing happened on Sunday night. We were here Sunday night. These children from the surrounding areas, I think they're all, mostly, if not all, our force people, the Amerindian people live in the neighborhood outlying areas. They come to Madhya where there is a secondary school, and they have dormitory, male dormitory, female dormitory, in which they are housed. Now, sometime during the night, this alarm was raised. If you read today's paper, a neighbor said that there are consistent and aggressive barking from their dogs. And she called on her husband to see what was going on. When he looked outside, he saw fire. And they ran to try to get into the building. This one flat building that was grilled all the windows. And I'm going to read the fire service report to you a little while ago. All the windows were grilled. So the people who responded were unable to get in. And hear what the fire service is saying. They said Madhya female dormitory fire was maliciously set. And the fire service, and this is the fire service report, dated yesterday. And it's a press release, so it's not something that is leaked. It's a press release that they gave. They said, based on preliminary investigations, it was revealed that the fire that ravaged the Madhya Secondary School female dormitory was maliciously set by a person or persons unknown. Physical examination and investigation indicated that the point of origin of the fire was in the southwestern interior of the building, in the lavatory area. It was also observed that the 26 windows of the building were heavily grilled and 5 doors were locked with keys. And what they didn't say, they say heavily grilled, but you know you get wooden grill, but these are metal grills. They didn't describe it, but heavily grilled with metal, wrought iron grills. Continuing, they said approximately 22:15, that's 10:15, on May 21st, 2023, that's Sunday night. A civilian ran into the Madhya fire station and alerted the ranks of a building on fire at the dormitory site. All-terrain vehicle number 1 and crew under the command of Sub-Officer Scott immediately responded to the 111 miles Potaro Road, Madhya Region 8 location. This is an ATV. They said they responded with an ATV. When firefighters arrived at the scene, it was observed that the one flat wooden and concrete building was engulfed in flames. The female dormitory housed 59 students. At the time the fire occurred, there were 56 females in the dorm and a 5-year-old boy. Quick action resulted in rank saving the lives of 19 students who were trapped in the building. This was managed by breaking holes in the northeastern wall of the dorm. After the fire was extinguished, it was discovered that 19 children had perished, including the 5-year-old boy. The 30-year-old students, that is what I said, the 38, okay, sorry, let me read that back. The 38 students that were rescued had suffered injuries, some life-threatening. 6 students who were severely injured were air-dashed to Georgetown for treatment, while the other 32 remained at Madja to receive treatment and undergo observation. However, several other students were transferred to Georgetown for further treatment. The fire service, and then I go in and say, express condolences. What is the fire service release? That is what the fire service released sometime yesterday. That is their account of what transpired. But a lot of questions are to be asked. That's what is reported. The building, a building that housed teenage children, completely grilled. And this morning, and I'll read that again, the minister is quoted in the Starbucks News have said, oh, the windows were grilled, but the doors were not grilled. They were padlocked. I mean, the doors were not grilled, but they were padlocked. It means the things were in such a state that people could not have easily escaped. That is the point. So whether the windows were grilled, but he's saying, no, the doors were not grilled. The doors were padlocked. And the fire service confirmed that they were padlocked. And there's some controversy as to how whether it was padlocked from the inside. The minister said it was padlocked from the inside, and some suggestion it was padlocked from the outside. We'll go into it a little later. But let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to make his comments at this point. CC, you already report from the fire service there. What are your thoughts? Hold on, let me unmute you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I read it. I read it, Paul, and it's alarming. Here they say that they responded with an ATV. Perhaps it's an ATV, like what they had at the Mazzaroni prison. Nothing but the fire tender, and nothing but the fire tender coming to work. I don't understand that. They responded with an ATV, Paul, and nothing that in terms of they had a fire tender there, whether it's working, we heard that they indeed had one and they had to make 7 trips to get water. We heard that there were no fire hydrant in the area, and all sort of things. Something is wrong, something is went woefully wrong on that evening, Paul.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, it's alarming. It's amazing that the fire service is going to say that they responded to this fire. Somebody told them about this fire. That's the people in Madja. And they responded with an ATV. For those of you who don't know, an ATV is a big type all-terrain vehicle. ATV stands for all-terrain vehicle. And it's a big time motorcycle. You see them 4 big wheels. So what could that vehicle have done? The vehicle that responded. The fire service release, I'm telling you, did not say anything about the fire tender and how many fire officers responded. The first video I saw of that scene, and I have it here, is what some people who appeared to be civilians mechanized, and then they get wood, and they started to break the wall to get in to the building. They started to break the wall, and apparently they were able, if you follow the release or the statement from the neighbor, he said he was able to get into this building somehow. He rescued 2 sets, but then he was overwhelmed with smoke, and he had to back off. The people broke the wall. They got in there. They were able to rescue others as well, right? So the fire service responded with an ATV. Then people are saying too that, look, when they get the fire service eventually, because they're saying, even though the fire service did not say that, the eyewitnesses are saying that there is a fire tender that went there. And when I saw a picture, of course, with that, the hose, and they had issues with water. They had issues with water. So the fire tender had limited amount of water, and the people are saying that it ran out several times. So you had to go to some distance to pull back and to come back. And they complained about the state of the road. They're saying that the fire engine could not have taken the shortest route because the thing is impossible. All of that has been said. And they're not addressing that. So you can see immediately from the outset, the first official release issued by the fire service, you can detect an attempt to downplay certain aspects, but you're going to come to light. It is going to come to light because you had witnesses there, and it is going to come to light. But and then they talk about the capability to fight fire and all this everything. I want to ask, and I have some questions here. The building was locked. The response from the fire service to the Bad Road and Swan I mentioned. Then you have to question, this is a building according to the fire service, built to house 60 children. God, that is what they are, children, right? They are, were they fire suppression plan? Your sprinkler. Well, sprinklers is not something that is common in Guyana. But things, for example, and I heard people saying fire alarm, and I think I read in Starbuck News too, they say, well, with the electricity, probably fire alarm. No. I have a fire alarm, works with battery, and the thing can be a nuisance because even if you fry little fish, or if some smoke, it makes a ruckus, it makes a lot of noise. You have a building like that, do they have fire alarms? So forget about electricity. Guyana is prone all over, blackouts all the time. So you don't want to rely on electricity. But there are fire alarms that are battery operated, very sensitive. And the slightest smoke, even if you smoke a cigarette, it sends off the fire alarm. Did they have fire alarm? Did they have fire extinguishers? Even the fire service people said in someone in the report that they saw evidence of extinguisher, but they can't say if those were the extinguishers in the building or if people who responded might have responded with fire extinguisher in trying to put out the fire. All of that is being said. So you got what about fire alarm where they can ring some bell or press something, make a big alarm, let people know that there is a fire. There are so many questions to be asked and answers to be provided. So all this run around what they're doing, that is not going to cut it. 19 persons, 19 innocent lives were needlessly lost, and we need proper explanation, not this this soap washing thing. Where they're going, right? Not that. So what more? And again, the question is asked. You have all of these children in this building. What is the fire plan? What is the fire plan? Do they have diagrams there so the children know in case of a fire what they have to do? Do they have an assembly point? All of these things. Do they have fire drills? When I was a youngster, many moons ago, going to school, they had fire drills. I remember the last fire drill, not in my school days. I attended a conference in Dubai. And at the hotel, it was scheduled for a fire drill that day. Of course, we were told. And when the alarm sounded, every man jack had to go out in that boiling sun. And we stood outside for half an hour until they carried. And it was a drill. We knew it was a drill. But we all had to evacuate the building at that particular time. Now, Guyana with all of these wooden buildings, and again, this thing pains me a lot because in the wake of the breakdown fire, which destroyed almost the whole compound, they say 80 to 90% of the compound, breakdown, for those of you who don't know, the main police station in Georgetown, destroyed the building. And it's there on social media for you to see. I wrote a post. I say, look, this is time for people to review the emergency arrangement relating to fire because Guyana still has an old set of wooden buildings. And therefore, you need proper plan. You need proper firefighting equipment and all of that. And the breakdown was a disgrace because the fire service headquarters is less, about 200 yards from the breakdown police station, and they responded so slowly and so inappropriately that the whole compound burned down. And I said it, but people are not learning from these things. Many times they listen to they don't listen to the message. They look at the messenger and they say, well, look, they want nothing to do with the message. But CC, let me hear what you got to say further at this stage, man. I am pained over what took place. So if a song a bit upset, I think you can understand. My viewers, you can understand. I am upset that 19 lives were lost in circumstances like these, which are easily preventable. Go ahead, CC.
Paul, let me tell you what happened to me. I had this thing live whilst it was happening. Sunday evening, I was watching Al Jazeera, and I got a phone call, a video call from a friend in Maja, a businessman. And just to put things in proper perspective, I was commander for Region 1, 7, 8, 9, and 10, all at the same time. I know Maja well. And I started to see the fire live. And the guy made a very terse statement. He said, look, all them children going to die in that fire. I said, man, why are you saying so? He said, yeah, they're going to die because the building's more secure than the Mazzaroni prison. He said, they'll lock up the buildings, everything lock up, them children can't come out. And I'm wondering, why in heaven's name they have to put bars on all those windows? Why they have to lock up the children in that place? You know, it's alarming. And then we're looking further. What about occupational safety and health? Minister Hamilton will always talk about occupational health, safety and health, and targeting private individuals, and he targeting overseas based companies, but perhaps they're not looking internally. They're not looking at themselves. They're not looking at government buildings. And it's shocking to get all those children there locked up there, buddy, locked up there, and here's a fire, then they can't escape. And as the man said, a very tough statement that that female dormitory was more secure than the Mazzaroni prison. Perhaps he's right.
Yeah, again, as I say, people are asking questions here. The fire service people, what happened to equipment? The fire service supposed to have firefighting stuff, things to break open doors. So even if you have grill, you should be able to break it open and get in. Sledgehammer to break concrete walls to get into buildings. They were clearly unprepared. I know they're supposed to do inspections. I called for inspection back in 2021, I think, after the breakdown fire. Inspect all the buildings. Make proper assessment of what is required in case there is an emergency, right? They laugh about it. When I made that statement shortly after the police had what they call a fire drill at police headquarters. And these scientists that you have there, these bright boys, the assembly point for a fire in police headquarters was right at police headquarters. You understand how incompetent and foolish these people are? So they decided they're going to have a fire drill where some alarm or something sounded, and then the offices have to be emptied, but they're putting them right in the same compound. So this is the level of thinking we have. That is the level of thinking. And a building that is supposed to house 60 students, right? 62, that one building. Apparently, there was no security guard, no security. I heard nothing mentioned of any security in the area. Somebody say, yeah, bowl cutter, we used to call it yard fowl, the bowl cutter. There was a time around 1999 where police patrols had to get bowl cutter. There's a time when they had strikes and people used to padlock the gates. I used to call the code name was a yard fowl. So if they locked, you could cut it. All of those things you're supposed to have. And let me say this. And as I said, we're going to read what the minister said today. He said, talk about assessment. And if they had done an inspection, let me say you do an inspection. You ought to have recognized the hazards associated with having 26 windows in one building grill. You ought to recognize. And if it is that you are professional, you're going to recognize that that should not be. And I suspect you're going to recommend as well what measures, what equipment need to be there in case there is an emergency. What measures should be taken in case there's an emergency? But they call me talking about drills at the other schools. Nobody wants to hear that crap a day like today. Nobody wants to hear that. We want to hear what actually took place at Model Secondary School, what actually took place. They're saying that, and Ben, I'm going to read it because you don't want to misquote them. They're going to tell you, say you libel them and you slander them and you defame their character. Like if they have any character to defame, they're going to say all of these things. So I'm going to quote what they say. Because they're talking about drills being done and all of that around schools and all of these things, a lot of these things are cosmetic. These things have to have meaning. Somebody talk about Jano, jars of life. They got all of this money, this oil money, they're splashing off the place, and things to safeguard and to protect life apparently they don't have. They don't have. People are even saying that the water bowser, you know, the big thing that carries how many 1,000 gallons of water, the bowser was sent to let him. That is what is being said. Those are the things that should be addressed so people can know what has happened. People must know what happened. People must know what measures are going to be put in place to ensure that there's no recurrence. So you could say all the thing. And you know, again, I say no security in the building. And the question is asked, if you read today's, I think it's today's Stabrook News editorial, they point out this is not the first time you had a fire at a school dormitory. You had a fire somewhere some time ago, according to Stabrook News, where 3 persons died. Then they had a next incident where people, on the boys' dormitory, they were all able to escape. Obviously, they weren't locked in like that. And I did some research. In the past 2 years, we have had so many devastating fires. And like these jokers are not learning. So, North Rhineville Multilateral School, remember that? That was on the 19th of June 2021. North Rhineville Multilateral School. Then you get Breakdown Police Station, October the 2nd, 2021. I alluded to that earlier. Then we had the OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, and the DPP's, Director of Public Prosecutions Building at Evelary Headquarters there, November the 20th. November the 20th. And going back to Breakdown, remember Breakdown? And this one at DPP's chamber, all the minister and those people could tell you, oh, they talk about intellectual authors. That is what they were looking for, intellectual authors. People, in other words, people from outside set up and cause these fires to occur. So I am surprised that they haven't indicated that they're looking for intellectual authors for this fire too at Madja. Then after the OPR, you had in September 2021, after around the same time, a house in Vigilance Police compound was completely destroyed. Cars below were burnt, and the fire service people had said that was arson. You hear nothing more. You hear nothing more with it. Then in September 2024 as well, the Mabaruma School, and that too was determined to be arson. You hear nothing more about that. Then you have the Christchurch. Before Christchurch, you had St. George's School on July the 20th, 2022. St. George's, burned down. You hear nothing about that. Then you had Christchurch. And Christchurch was this year, January the 12th, 2023. And they say, 2 Christchurch, they say was arson. Nothing more you're not hearing. Apparently those investigations have not progressed. That's like the paper shots murder, them investigations there on the cold case file. And then we had in February of this year as well, Porika Market, Bondo. You had all of these fires. And given the vulnerability of many of these buildings, because they are constructed with wood, you want to tell me, man, they don't get arrangement in place, better arrangement in place, so in case there's a fire, whether you talk about intellectual artists, whether you call mosquito coil, you know, back in the day, mosquito coil, one little candle starting fire, or whatever they call a flambeau or a slow flare up, because all those used to be causes. Fluctuating electricity, short circuit. You have so many things that causes fire in Guyana that one would expect that they're going to pay more attention to making sure that systems are put in place to deal with this. And somebody said, what's your head will roll? But you don't hold your breath waiting for that. Don't hold your breath waiting for heads to roll. Because if we're talking about heads will roll, it's a good thing to say Well, let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to get. I don't want to dominate the bowling and the batting too much. Again, I said I'm very worked up this morning, and I would think justifiably so. So, CC, let me hear what you have to say, man.
You bowl a no ball, Paul. When you talk about them, it's only was one fireman at Majo, so it couldn't be them. One fireman at Majo, right? And it's true what you say where they also want to let them, because I think the celebrations for this year will be has been shifted to let them. So everybody gone to let them. And then if you're looking at Paul, you grill up the place because students are in discipline. If students are in discipline, they have no right to be there. And you can't grill them up in there. Fire's gonna happen, things gonna happen. If in discipline there's need to deal with them. And they're talking about discipline. And let me tell you something about discipline. Discipline is a two-sided thing. Sometimes when you ask the average person about discipline, and the first thing it'll tell you is punishment. Discipline, you have negative discipline and you have positive discipline. I mean, a little training good. And discipline for me is training expected to provide a desired behavior. You want controlled behavior. You want people to behave in a certain manner. And how you deal with it, you're dealing with children, is that you encouraging acceptable behavior and punishing those for unacceptable behavior. That is, it is what we call like a reward and punishment. And if you look in the police force in terms of negative behavior, what we do, sometimes we reprimand, we suspend, we interdict, we demote, we promote, we discharge, we terminate. And positive discipline is that you give commendation, you praise them, you give them incentives, you give them training, you give them promotion, you transfer them. So discipline is a two-sided effect. But perhaps they're looking at just the negative part of discipline. Those are young children you have there. And what about the qualification for the house mother? Was there any is there any welfare officer for that secondary school? And what is the qualification for that welfare officer? Do they have training in anger management? Do they how they resolve conflict? Do they have communication skills to do with those children? Do they look at self-esteem? Do they look at emotional intelligence? Do they look at cultural awareness? They just say, I always like to repeat that saying. I gotta read it down somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. It's saying rules without relationship leads to rebellion. Rules without relationship leads to rebellion. You have the children there, and there's in a difficult age. And was the house mother or whatever you want to call her, did she have a relationship with them? And do you resolve conflict by taking away somebody's cell phone? Do you resolve conflict by grilling up the place? There got to be better ways in terms of dealing with the children. And somebody got to be there to be able to influence proper behavior. And you don't look at rules, regulations, and restriction all the time. There must be proper relationship, somebody that could relate to, somebody who could influence proper behavior instead of putting up all those barriers, instead of grilling up the place, instead of taking away the cell phone and all that kind of thing. That the thing gotta be look wider. And perhaps they need to employ welfare officers to deal with those children, to deal with behavior. I think the plan is maybe way down the line is that each school must have a welfare officer so that they can relate to the children and the children can relate to them. But repeating the statement earlier, rules without relationship leads to rebellion. And perhaps that is exactly what happened on that night.
Look at what is put up there, people. Some man named, what he name? Tajnaram Raghunandan. He said two jackasses. I guess he referred to me and Mr. Conway as jackasses. But yet still, he's here listening and watching. So who is the bigger jackass? You get two jackasses. One man they refer to me as geriatric. Well, no man, I think they refer to you. That Volkswagen had referred to us as geriatric. But he is here, this Raghunandan, he's here watching. So join the club, man. Join the club. The two jackasses are lonely, so it's welcome. You welcome a third. You welcome a third. or maybe using the jackass as generic, but you know the male jackass, female genius. So if you are know, so perhaps you're a genius. So welcome, welcome. Yeah, and continue to share the life. Continue to share the life, friends. And we talk about what happened, what they say happened at this Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at this place. Now, I want to concentrate and look at the investigation. Look at what I said, the investigation. First thing, I noted that they have there a very inexperienced commander. And I ain't knocking at the commander, but I'm saying so they can learn. Something like this, a fire or any fire, especially one of this nature, the first response, and I'm speaking here as a man who commanded several police divisions and a man who was in charge of post operations and all of that. You have to cordon the area. You have to cordon when you're in Georgetown. You try to establish a cordon to prevent curious spectators from impeding the work of the firemen. In a case like that, almost soon after this thing was brought under control, you have to put up a cordon because it becomes a crime scene. It becomes a crime scene. You have to put up a cordon. There was no evidence that a cordon was established. So when I see the release, sometime yesterday, they're talking about, oh, the thing is cordoned and the place is being guarded by the police. What are they guarding it for now? When people walk all over the place and trample evidence, and let me show you what I mean about people walking all over the place and trampling on the evidence. Let me show you all. Look, this is a crime scene. This is a crime scene. This is a picture. The Prime Minister and a whole set of them in the scene. Look at this picture. What is he doing there? Prime Minister in the scene, in the crime scene. Right? Look at the next one. In the crime scene. This is the Prime Minister and his entourage, I suspect, in the crime scene. Right? So what is he doing there? What is he doing there? The commander ought to have been on the ground to advise those persons that, look, this is a crime scene and you cannot enter the crime scene. Some physical barrier should have been erected to prevent them from getting there. And this has nothing to do with rank. So even if it's the president, you have to let him know that, sir, I'm sorry, you cannot get to this point. Because the point is that there is absolutely no reason for them to be in that scene apart from them one photo opportunity. You could have had a cordon. They could have stood outside the cordon and say what they have to say and still get the picture. But no, they're gone walking all over the crime scene. And I saw attorney at law Dexter Todd. He wrote a beautiful letter about it the very day. He was so outraged that he wrote and even offered, because he's trained in forensic science, as I am, and he even offered his services to advise them to assist them in going forward. What is the Prime Minister doing in the place there? So, and that falls squarely on the shoulders of the commander, because he has to take control of the scene, and then you have the gathering of evidence. So they're in this scene, not deliberately necessary, but they're tampering with the evidence. Because the mere fact that they're walking around, your foot gun jump thing, your foot gun remove thing, and all of that. What is he doing there? What is he doing in the crime scene? So soon, so soon after the fire. They got there and they're looking at somebody else, they want to look important. But you can look important by standing outside. This is ignorance. This is stupidity as it worse for them to be in there. The Minister of Education, all of them, right? So then you get outside the scene, no cordon established. The scene wasn't properly protected. The Prime Minister in there walking all over the place. And then they're talking about the need to have DNA done to identify some victims, because according to the report, I think 13 of these children were born beyond recognition. So you have to have DNA to say who is who and all of that. Then when they talk about the DNA, the question is asked, what happened to this lab? What happened to the lab at the Baka University? So many years. Since I was in the force, I left the force almost 13 years now. The lab was being built. Apparently up to now, they don't have the capability. And one thing I got to remember, that when you're talking about DNA, even though I saw that Barbados has provided some support with some person who came there to the DNA. DNA takes a long time. It takes a very long time to get the results. So all this time, there's no closure to these bereaved families. No closure, right? Then before I bring in CC again, I heard it said, I think it was yesterday, the file sent to DPP for legal advice. It seems that the focusing based on the statements that are being made by the fire service and by the minister and all those that concerned, some student who was being disciplined is alleged to have been the person who started the fire. Let me accept that for argument's sake, that this one student may have started the fire, whether accidentally or intentionally. Let us accept that for argument's sake, right? The issue is not only the fire. One of the main issues is that these persons were locked in this building. That is why they died. Because even if the fire was started and they could have gotten out of that building easily, they would have done so. If people could have gotten in there easily to rescue them, that would have happened. So it's not only the person or persons who started the fire, who lock up the building, who instructed for this building to be grilled in the manner it was grilled. Wrought iron grill, no escape route. Door, according to the minister, 5 doors, even though not grilled, they were padlocked. Who gave instructions for those things to happen? Those people are also culpable. I don't know if they know the concept of involuntary homicide. Involuntary homicide. So the person who locked up the building, I hope the report, I've not seen the report that going to the DPP, but I hope the report will point out all of that. Who started the fire? Who locked up the children in the building? Because the evidence is clear that the children were making an attempt, as anyone would do under those circumstances, to get away from the building, to get out of the building. But because of the grill, because of the padlock, the children could not have escaped. So I am saying that whoever locked the building in there, locked those children in there, that person is also equally guilty as a person who or persons who may have caused the fire to start. So let me understand this thing clearly. And let me, before I bring in Mr. Conway, let me tell you all some of the things that the minister said, or that the minister is reported to have said. And I invite you to read Starbrook News. The article is captioned Dam Safety for intense review following deadly Madia fire. And I highlighted a certain part of this thing, what the minister is alleged to have said. I highlighted a part. The minister is quoted to say, yes, we will obviously have to look to upgrade the efforts. We have been doing fire readiness inspection, fire drills, and fire talks in schools. That still happens with students and guards. But what we have to do is to a comprehensive assessment in the dormitories to get a better handle of the situation. That is what the minister is saying. Yeah, he said it as though talks in schools, talks in guard. When last did they speak to these children at Madia? When last did the guard, if they had a guard there, was he spoken to and told of his role in this whole thing? He goes on, the quote here, and again I said, this is Starbrook News. Ben stated that from his briefing with firefighters, it has not been established whether the student participated in any fire drills or if there were adequate fire prevention and escape routes in the place and the dark. Now, what rubbish is this? What nonsense is this? More than 48 hours after this fire, and the minister can't say whether the student participated in fire drills and if there were adequate fire prevention and escape routes in the place of them. This is what a minister of Home Affairs, the man responsible to fire, police, prison, that is what he's telling this nation. That all this time, this is Sunday. Today is, let me give you up to yesterday, Tuesday, and he can't say, well, firefighters, it not been established whether the student participated in any fire drill or if there were adequate fire prevention and escape routes in the place. My God, look at incompetence. Look at incompetence. He goes on to say, and he emphasizing, there were no doors, no doors which was grilled. The windows were grilled. but it was wooden doors. The windows were grilled, but it was wooden doors. The point is they couldn't escape. Put that in your thick skull, whatever it was, even if it grilled with busy, they couldn't escape because there was no plan. And in case people don't know, when you use these things, and they have to explain, you know, busy is a kind of weed that grows around the place. Busy. So even if they grill it with busy, the point is the children were trapped. And this is not toddlers, these are teenagers. And one would expect they have sufficient strength that if the place had not been like a fortress, they would have been able to get out. The minister goes on to say, let me quote you again. It appears in the panic to get out, with a large number of girls going towards the room in which the house mother was, time was lost. She, and referring to the house mother, she heard the commotion and heard them pounding on her door. And when she opened the door, there was this fire, and her little son ran away from her, and he died. She went to the door with them around her. The minister related from what he was told. Well, the minister, when you make them statement, them now, when they tell you, you have to start off with this. Mariddle, Marie. The older folks that know it. Mariddle, Marie. And when I was a youth man, which is many, many years ago, that is how you start your Nancy story. Mariddle, Marie. So you're alerting people that whatever coming up is a tale, a fable. So they know. And then he goes on, let me deal with that. So he's giving the impression that this house mother was in the building with the children. She went to the door to try to open the door. Because he's saying that the door was locked from inside. She tried to open the door. But in the confusion, they said somewhere the key dropped and they couldn't thing, and they got wrong key and they got misplaced. Now, if she was in the building, the people on the ground are saying differently, saying that she was not in the building. So if she was in this building that engulfed in flame, who rescued she? How she got out of the building? How she was not injured? So again, when they come to people with all this type of crap, they believe people stupid like them, right? Because the thing is not credible. The thing that makes sense what they're saying. Because they're saying, I can't hear again. He's saying, when he said they tell you, he said that the fire, people tell you that she was in the building and she ran to the door because the children went to, apparently she got some room in there, I don't know. They knock on this room, and when she come out, she went to the door to open the door, but she get confused, the key, she lost the key dropped down, all sort of crap you hear it. Mariddle, Marie is Nancy's story that tell you there, because if it is that she was in the building, I ask the question again, who rescued her? How was she not injured? So all this crap you are telling people, you believe people stupid, just like you. And then he goes on, see, I'm getting a little batin just now, man. He going on. Ben said that he gathered from the house mother, he gathered that the house mother was caught off guard by the situation. And in the panic and frantic situation, as she tried to open the main door, the keys dropped twice. And she had difficulty finding the key for the lock. By that time, when the door was open, the whole place was on fire. So how she didn't get injured? Ben clarified that while the doors to the buildings were not grilled, they were locked from the inside. That's what Ben is saying. They weren't grilled, but they locked from the inside. So if you lock from the inside again and the key dropped, she couldn't open it. How come she was not injured? And somebody said the right thing, fool talking but fool and listening. Fool attack but fool not listen. Then he said it is night time. The doors were locked and you would have to open the doors from inside to get out. When the students went banging on the door of the house mother, she had to open the main door. I ain't gonna quote you any longer for setting up my blood pressure this morning. But again, I say it's Mariddle, Marie. And while I cool down, let me bring in Mr. Conway to if he can explain some of the crap that there's CC, let me hear you, man. Hold on. Start over your mic. Yeah, go start over.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're bending up the report. But I agree with you. They trample with that crime scene They contaminated that crime scene. And and the thing is that this thing will belong to forensic investigation. And I saw them there, the cameras online, and even the minister then, perhaps he have some kickboxing skills. Perhaps he's a kickboxer because he kicking down articles on the floor there. Perhaps there are valuable evidence there that he kick around. You know, the thing is that you win. I said so on several episodes. You win or lose a case at the scene. How you manage this crime scene. And as you rightly say, it got to be locked down. It got to be public secure. What the Prime Minister doing there? What the President doing there? What the Minister of Education doing there? What Robson Ben doing there? The thing has got to be secure as long as you need it. But no, instead they go to places like Kinapau, Maikobi, Carisparrow, Port Malachi, and El Paso and deal with members of the bereaved families. No, they're running there for photo opportunity. Coming back to the crime scene, Lockhart theory of exchange. I would like to quote it. Lockhart theory of exchange say, hey, the perpetrator will take away traces of the victim and the scene. The victim will remain traces of the perpetrator and may leave traces of himself or herself on of the perpetrator. The perpetrator will leave behind traces of himself or herself at the scene. That things are at the scene there, and it calls for forensic investigation. Persons who were born beyond recognition, you can't recognize them, and that's when DNA and so come into play. They brought somebody from Barbados, and I wonder what they did with the chain of custody of those remains that they had there. The more you think about it, the more ridiculous it is. The forensic science lab that they got established there over a decade old, and they can't deal with DNA. I know they can't. They don't have the personnel to deal with things apart from dealing with little drugs, little ganja, little coke, and little blood, and nothing else. The capability, they don't have it. And there's it. Trample along the crime scene. Trample along the crime scene. And then is it to that, to use some famous word, they run with breakneck speed and say they submit a report to the DPP. When you move it with those breakneck speed, certain vital elements of the crime is a crime, is murder, it's cold-blooded murder, and certain basic elements you will lose. You will not concentrate on it. And I'll be surprised if I hear the DP say, yes, 2 weeks from now, the DP say, we received the file 2 weeks ago, and we have since sent it back to the police to do further investigation. The investigation cannot be completed when you have 13 persons, you still get to know the cause of death. If you're going to charge people, you have to get the cause of death of those persons, So much things have gone wrong. And a whole set of incompetence, unprofessional behavior. Going back, what they're doing at the scene, the Prime Minister and all of them, what they're doing there, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Affairs, the Minister of Education, the President, trampling down and contaminating the scene. And this is a lesson to be learned. Not only this crime scene, they have several other crime scenes. And the thing is that you lock it down. You lock it down because there's need for forensic investigation. There's need for forensic science to come into play. Like you, Paul, I did forensic science also with the FBI. And even see Dexter thought they told that law off its service. And he made it plain that he ain't coming back. He don't come back as no defense counsel, but he's willing to give his assistance based on his training. And he did training recently, very up-to-date training. He even offered to run program for the police and other people, but they have not taken it on. So the whole thing has gone ridiculously wrong, Paul.
Well, yes, but again, this file that went to the DPP, I think I need to deal with that a little. Because I saw a report which is saying that the children, those are the survivors, were interviewed in the presence of some school welfare officer. The children were interviewed in the presence of a school welfare officer. What happened to their parents? What happened to their guardians? School welfare officer? School welfare officer in a matter like that, you allowing the children to be interviewed in the presence of a school welfare officer. The parents ought to be there, the guardians ought to be there. Because remember, so in something like this, perhaps all of those persons in the building are suspects. All of them are suspects until they are you eliminate them as such. All, and therefore you get into the place, and this is where the judge's rule comes in as well. Because I am certain, I willing to put my neck on a block that the child who is alleged to have started this fire, or the children who are alleged to have started this fire, who are questioned, I am sure, I'm willing to put my neck on the block. They ask them question. Because some areas are suggesting that the girl admitted that she started the fight and so on. And remember, rule 1 of the judge's rule, young police who are listening, if a police is doing an investigation, he can question anyone from whom he believe evidence can be adduced. But from the time you get an indication that that person is likely to be involved in the crime, you got to stop questioning them, and you have to tell them of their rights to refuse to make any written or oral, any written statement or oral statement. In other words, you're not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so immediately. And I am saying I'm willing to put my neck on the block. They go there and they ask the child and ask the children, ask other question, and they didn't take into consideration the judge's rule and all of them type of thing. I sure that they have not done that. I am sure. So you got a lot of problems. You got a lot of problems, and there are people calling for commission of inquiry. People calling for COI. I agree that there should be a COI. But remember, if you're going to get a proper and credible COI, you have to have people who are credible. Not them people you're going to bring who are going to tell you what you want to hear and whitewash the thing. And remember too, with a COI, the work of the COI is limited by the terms. So if you give them restricted terms, they really can't tell you anything. So while I agree that there should be a commission of inquiry into this tragic fire at Maja, you have to go and look to see how it's going to be established, what are the terms. Because if you allow the government to, by themselves, establish and don't get input from the wider society, they're going to give you something and another whitewash you're going to get. And I say again, will the culpable persons be held accountable? And then I also have here the need to look at other facilities. You know, as we said before, this is not the first fire. It might be the deadliest, but it's not the first at a school. And they need to make sure that they look at all of these schools and buildings and make sure that they put something in place. Somebody post a picture, I think it was Monday or yesterday. They're saying that the juvenile detention center up and down the street, heavily grilled as well. Hope they put system in place. You want to say, all right, they are juveniles. They might have been accused of committing some crime and all this stuff, but yet still they have rights. You have to make sure that if there's an emergency that they can get out. People say too that there's another school. Somebody post a picture to say that the school at St. Ignatius is heavily grilled as well. They have to look at all of these things. They have to look at all of these things. And to crown it all, well, not ready to crown it. Yesterday, they had this, last night, this vigil at the Humana Yana in Georgetown. The vigil at the Humana. But when these people do things, it's not easy for you to be shocked. But I was shocked last night when I looked at the vigil to see that children who were brought out and to the hospital and were discharged yesterday, that's what they say, were at the vigil at the Humana Yana. Those traumatized children, people just went through the most traumatic experience of their lives. And you get them at the natural, at the Humana Yana, displaying them. For what? Another photo opportunity? Another photo opportunity. You get these children so traumatized. They should have been with their parents and with counselors. They brought them there to the Humana Yana, get them sitting down with all them dozens and scores, I know how many, but a lot of people there. That in itself is a traumatizing effect to be there in the spotlight like that. That in itself is um, a new trauma and trauma. I got a strong suspicion too that many of those children, because they're from those remote areas, they never came to town before. And when you're gonna carry them to the Humana Yana there with all them cameras and all, that in itself is a traumatic experience. So that is the way, that is how these people are thinking. That is how they are thinking. Those children should have never been there. Those children should have never been there last night. And you're saying that the thing. And then the other part that I was to tell you about this major thing, let me show you it now. This is the slide there. The Prime Minister, the Minister of Education, the President, the man who sits in the commission chair, and all them, they're in the hospital. This is Selwyn Peters wrote a letter, very critical of them. He has to be critical because they are born victims. And when you have born victims, you have to make sure that the area is sterile so that they're not affected and all of that. I understand that the Minister of Education responded on his page, on Selwyn's page, to say that, well, these weren't the ones who were badly injured and some type of crap. And yes, still after that response, they had to take some of these things, I think two they said, to Georgetown for be treated there because of the extent of the injuries. So this is what you have. This is what we have. This type of incompetence is what we have, right? CC, let me try to wrap up this part.
Okay, I agree. You know, taking those children to that vigil there. Those children should be presently under psychological care. They are traumatized, and you care them to relive the situation. Goodness gracious! And if I just jump up a bit, I listened to the National Security Advisor, Jerry Govaya, Captain Jerry Govaya, and he equating what happened at Majo to that of Jonestown, to that of the Bartica massacre, to that of the Lusignan massacre, and he's saying that this one that happened at Majo took the cake. What nonsense is that? Then it leads me to imagine what kind of national security advice is being given to the government by that particular individual, equating that thing to Jonestown massacre, to Bartica massacre, and to Lusignan massacre. God, please help Guyana Police Force. Please help the government of Guyana.
Well, you need a lot of help. I guess at this stage you need some divine intervention. You need some divine intervention. And I noted too that the government announced very Friday afternoon, the president said 3 days of mourning. President, 3 days of mourning. And the strange thing, he said the 3 days will start at 4 p.m. On Monday. And the question was asked, why 4? I can never, I have no recollection. And I've been trying to do some research where the if you're gonna decide on a national day or days of mourning that you're starting at the end of a working day, I would have thought that the most appropriate thing was to be from next day. And then I saw some release circulated by the Ministry of or the Chief Education Officer to say that flags should be flown at half mast and all of that on the school buildings. I wonder if similar circulars were sent to all the ministries, government for government buildings. Flag should be flown at half mast at all the government buildings. I don't know if such was done, but I would expect that if you're talking about 3 days of mourning, you got to say what those 3 days entail. What those 3 days entail. As you can see, I decided today I'm going to wear sober color. So all of that you have to tell people. 3 days of mourning, sober colors to be worn, TVs and the radio station should play. You're directing what you're suggesting to them. Somber music, all of that is not just saying 3 days of mourning. 3 days of mourning. I understand that they also said that the flag raising, which is to be held tomorrow night at Letem, they decided it's going to be scaled down instead of the regular thing. They're going to have reflections or something like that. But let me tell you all, the police who are listening, the flag, the lowering of flags, or flags being flown at half mast. Some people say half staff, half mast. Let me give you a little teaching here now, because that was my thing. I was considered an expert in this area. Now, there's a protocol to flying a flag at half mast or half staff. Half mast really is flags being flown on buildings and on land. Half staff really refers to ships. Because ship is what gets, half mast rather. Half mast is the ship, because ship is what gets mast, and half staff is really buildings and so on. Now, the protocol is, on buildings, police headquarters, then place, you flying flag, you raise the flag in the mornings, and you lower it in the evenings. Now, when you raise the flag in the morning, the protocol is that the flag is raised to the top of the flagpole, right up to the top, and then it comes down to the width of the flag from the top of the flagpole, and that is of staff. That is what is half staff. And when you go to take down the flags in the afternoon, you run it up back to the top, and then you bring it down. Those are the protocols. Those things are written in text. But they disregard all of these things now. And I suspect, in terms of government buildings, national flags are not to be flown, well, any building, government are not to be flown during the night, unless they are lit, unless they're illuminated. So if you get a big spotlight, only that will then allow you to fly the flag during the night. But you should have, it's a national symbol. The flag should be taken down in the evening, and it goes up back in the mornings. So there's some teaching for many of you who raise flags. And if you have not done so, perhaps this afternoon, when you go to lower the flag, you will make sure you run it up back to the top, and then you bring it reverently right down back, and then you take it off. And then tomorrow, when you raise it, you take it right to the top, and then you bring it down to the width. It's not half pole. Let me understand this thing clearly, because I'm sure if you go around now, you're gonna see the flags that have been flown, they're halfway up on the flagpole. That's not what half staff is. That is not what it is. It's not halfway on the pole. So we understand. Well, you're under here 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. unless you have an activity which goes beyond 6 p.m., then you're permitted to keep the flag up until the end of the activity. In other words, if you have an activity in the same area and 6 o'clock catches you, you're not expected to lower the flag while the activity is going on. You allow the activity to continue, and at the end of the activity, the flag is lowered. But I say the only way you should keep it flying during the course of the night is if you have spotlight on the flag. So lessons for those persons. As I said, there is a protocol dealing with flags. Some people take these things very, very seriously. The national symbol, they take it very, very seriously. But we so wishy-washy now in this place that these people know, and they don't seek to know, and they think anything goes. That is the problem. Anything goes. CC, before we move on the other subject, which is the issue relating to prison, you have anything to say on this fire?
And just since you on flag, and I was watching to the alleged press conference or media conference that the minister had, and the flags were flying there, and there was the Ghana flag on the left of the other flags. If the flag had been flown to where the Ghana flag must be on the right, there was the Ghana
Always,
flag on the left.
always, always. The Ghana flag should be on the right, and then they come down by seniority by service. If I remember
So I
correctly.
was wondering if there's an indication that things at the ministry is too upside down, like how they're flying the flag.
Because the Ghana flag should be on the right. They think that the senior service then can be the GDF, then the police, then I think the next service is the prison, and then the fire. But there's an order, there's a protocol to these things.
Yeah.
There's a protocol to these things, and people must remember, because they might think it is all right to do that, but these things are seen all over the world, and then people say that you're backward. People say that you're backward. So you got to make sure that these things are done correctly. And even when they are flown on flagpoles, again, you get an order. National flag is to the right. The only time the national flag is not to the right is if the pole on which the national flag is flown is higher than the other poles. So in that case, the national flag can be in the center, but it has to be on a pole that is higher than the other flag. So these things are important. These things are important. But see, let me move on. We have here now the prison. Well, I'm tempted to say escape, but I want to say escape. I don't want to say prison escape. The story about the prisoner who escaped or who was released, whatever they want to say, on Friday. Now, before I start that, let me show the readers. Let me show the laws of Guyana, and this is laws of Guyana relating to prison. As they say, prisoner under sentence of death. Follow it and read with me, because not for them. I see you one of these jacobats there, and they're making all sort of stupid comments. Look and learn. Not me, sister. This is what the law says. And this is section 24, section 44 of the laws of Guyana dealing with prison. And the thing is supervision of prisoners under sentence of death. They say every prisoner under sentence of death shall be confined apart from other prisoners in a special cell and shall be under constant supervision by day and by night. And then section 45 says, except with the written permission of the director, no person other than a member of the prison staff, the medical officer, and a minister of the religious denomination to which the prisoner belongs shall have access to any prisoner under the sentence of death. Again, it's not me saying so. So for these cockroaches, and then we're coming and talking a lot of crap. This is what the laws of Guyana say. I say this about the laws of Guyana because I understand people asking about SOPs. What are the SOPs? SOPs are good. But what is the law? You can't have an SOP that contravenes or contradicts the law. The SOP has to be done to give effect to the law. And the law is what the law is. I just read it to you. You would have read it to yourself. So what they're saying, and this is what is carried in the news, that this person had a visitor. That is what they said, right? Had a visitor, and the visitor or the meeting place of the visitor was some distance away, and the prisoner, this prisoner under the sentence of death, they say he was shackled, meaning he had pink on the foot chain. He was shackled and he was taken to this place on an ATV. Here again, we have ATV, all-terrain vehicle. Like this vehicle is popular in the Ministry of Home Affairs. He was taken there, and they claim, I don't know the geography, but they say on the way back, the prisoner officer was ambushed. Some lone gunman. One of the initial reports said, and men who look like Venezuelan. When I had to ask the question, I know how Venezuelans look. Men who look like Venezuelan open fire. The prison officer who was escorting this prisoner under the sentence of death jumped for cover, and the prisoner ran towards his riverfront, jumped overboard, and he was pulled into this boat by his accomplices, and then they made good their escape. That is what was said. Now, the minister and the acting director at a press conference, if you can call it that, on Saturday, and they talk a whole set of nonsense. The minister, again, thing, and he do most of the talking, because when the prison officer was invited, the director was invited to speak. He spoke maybe a minute or so, and that was it. All he sat there doing, and look at him carefully, he remind me of them ornament in them car where he bobbing the head so all the time. In other words, he acknowledging whatever the minister was saying. So that is what they say. So there are so many questions to be asked, given the laws of Guyana. How is it that this person had a visitor? Did the director approve as required by the law of this prisoner? And if it is that the director did approve, what arrangements are made to make sure that this person is secured? They too said that when the man was there speaking to this, the prisoner I'm talking about, speaking to the female who visited him, they were talking in a different language, assumed to be Spanish. And so they could not understand what they're saying. What craziness is this? What craziness? Isn't that part of the SOP? That if a person comes, they must communicate in a language that the guards and everybody could understand? There are so many questions There are so many questions to be asked, and the minister and the people, they are not providing any proper answers. They are not providing any answers. And it is noted from all of the releases that are being said now that this man escaped before from the Georgetown prison during a fire which was deliberately lit. He escaped before during a fire that was deliberately lit. This man is sentenced to multiple, man has multiple death sentences. Not one, several death sentences, right? He's alleged to have been involved in the Lusignan massacre, the Bartica massacre, and all of these things. And this man can get away like that. And here, an next laugh, CC, I'm gonna bring you in now. On Friday when this thing came out, or Saturday, the minister said that the police and the fire service people, or the prison service rather, were in hot pursuit. I had to go and check back my notes and so on. Was in hot pursuit. And then when he questioned further, they said, well, it took them like about half an hour or so to mobilize to go into the direction of this hot pursuit. Hot pursuit, I remember, supposed to be, the law provides, if you read the law, they talk about hot pursuit. So if you're chasing a criminal or a person suspected to be involved in a crime, he runs into some yard or he runs into someone's home, you can pursue him. There's hot pursuit. You don't have to have a warrant because of the circumstances. You can chase. But they say hot pursuit sometime after when the people gone miles and miles and miles. So what really going on here. See, let me bring you in, man. Let me bring you in. So you seem to have a better understanding and can explain these things better than I can. So let me hear your explanation.
As you rightly said, because part of what the director of prison said that they were reviewing SOPs. As if they had any SOPs. And when you write any SOP, it must be well within the ambit of the law. There mustn't be no wriggling space. You gotta fit in neatly inside it. And as the law said, the man must be supervised 24/7. And for persons to visit, it gotta be in writing from the director of prison. Writing from the director of prison. Was there any written approval from the director? And more so, a female, what's she going there for? Or is it for some sexual pleasure, as we heard? And we heard that it used to happen regularly. And there's it. If you're going to move the prisoner, the condemned murderer, you're going to move him from point A to point B. And then here you're moving him with an ATV, which is some distance away, and he's shackled. So how he sat on that ATV, and even when they said he's trying to escape, he ran. So perhaps he must have gone through a lot of exercise how to run quickly and in a good distance whilst being shackled, and more so, and jump into the river. I get shackled and I jumping into a river. The whole thing song, as you rightly said earlier in the discussion with the children, Marie, or my grandmother used to say, they think we stupid. They used to say, I might be cabbage looking, but I ain't green. We understand what's happening. And then in this modern age, when there cameras looking at the prisoner from the time he left the cell where he riding to where he's going to have pleasure, or perhaps like what they did with paper shots, they deleted that part of it. And then they said the cameras of the safe city, it then operating at Mazruni. And also they wanted a conference to say safe city will replace boots on the ground. So many things that went wrong there, Paul. Things like what happened at the waterfront? Do they have a response capability there? Do they have somebody monitoring if there are any boat or so parked down there? People could just go and park there and remain there overnight. You know, And we talk about handcuff several times on this program. Why don't you handcuff people? If you put on a foot cuff, why don't you put on a handcuff? And I always like to refer to the United States of America. I remember with, with the Michael Jackson trial, the doctor, as soon as the judge say you are guilty, a policeman appear from nowhere and put the handcuff behind his back. And when you handcuff in prison, you handcuff them behind the back. And you watch in the States, when they arrest people, since they arrest them, handcuff. Perhaps they spend all the money, otherwise the 300 million at the police quartermaster store, so that they can get money to buy handcuffs. I know police and thing used to be, it's still be handcuff part of your kit. You say your appointments, your button, your whistle, and your handcuff. How this prisoner gets so much access? How we get preferential treatment? And they talk about AK-47 and AR-15. How they know it's AK-47 and AR-15? We didn't hear anything that they recovered spent shell and they did ballistic tests. And so much things go around there. So much, rigmarole story happened there. That Paul is, and the press conference that the minister held there, it is mind-boggling. It's shattering, if you may call it a press conference. But I pass with a while and you take up the bowling.
Yeah, man. Here, let me tell you this. When you talk about it, if you can call it a press conference, very little details as to what transpired. And therefore, I think it's the same day or the same night I read an account from Stabrook News. But I was shocked because Stabrook News told us that this operation by these people to free this man started since the Thursday, where they claimed that they hijacked some boat and stuck up the man, they carried the man, they slept overnight somewhere, and all this type of thing. The minister then mentioned nothing about that. So you want to tell me that the minister and the director acting did not know that this thing is not something that was spontaneous, they just come there the Friday? It has been reported in the media that this thing was mounted since the day before, when the people went to some boat with a suitcase, and they're suggesting that the guns were in the suitcase, and they hired the man to go somewhere up the river. And while on their way, they did a thing and they slept out some night. All of these things were mentioned. And so therefore, having listened to the press conference, I don't normally listen to these people because I got a bullshit meter that is very sensitive, that's go off quick. So, but I listened to this one, and when I finished, I said, well, you provide no evidence, you provide no information, maybe they didn't get. So when I saw this now in the Stabrook News, I said, my God, all of this played on, and these people didn't tell you anything about that. But let me say this, let me think this part. Again, slackness. Prison scandal unveils murder inmate, exposes former staff on Facebook. This is an article that was published just about a week ago. It says, prison scandal unveils murder inmate, exposes prison. Let me read about. Prison scandal unveiled murder inmate, exposes former staff of the Facebook. This is something that was there published. And I don't want to, I'm going to call the names and so on, but let me give you a quick read as to what this thing says. They call the name a convicted murderer serving a 55-year sentence at the New Amsterdam prison has leaked scandalous details about his relationship with a former auxiliary staff member. Her name is there. Then I said this prisoner managed to release videos on social media depicting their intimate encounters within the prison walls. This revelation has shed light on a web of illicit activities, including drug distribution. Then it goes on to say, the scandalous video revealed that the name of this female, who has since resigned from her position, willingly participated in filming of these explicit activities. Furthermore, sources familiar with the matter indicate that the pair was suspected of being involved in the smuggling and distribution of drugs within the prison. Allegedly, the name of the person would smuggle drugs into the facility, and the name of the prisoner would sell among the inmates. with the female pocketing the profits. It goes on to say the relationship between the two took a dark turn, leading to the female resignation from the prison. It is believed that she absconded with a substantial sum of money that the two acquired together, estimated to be within the range of millions. The exact duration of their illicit activities remains unclear, but photographs have surfaced showing the female sporting a tattoo resembling an abstract sketch of what appears the prisoner's face, suggesting a deep level of commitment to the relationship. As of now, the whereabouts of the female is unknown. This is going on in the prison. So if it is that this man take out this thing, it means he get phone, it means he get internet service, or at least cell phone service he can send out, right? He can send out. But all sort of thing happening. Now coming back to this incident on Friday. Saturday, press conference. I am not aware that anything has happened since then. They ain't said nothing more. They're gone dark. They're gone dark. I tell you all already on this program how these rushed press conferences, we can call them that, just traumatize these people. They had one by the police to deal with, to debunk the claim by the Ambascom. The disastrous outcome. This one again, same thing. The most dangerous prisoner in the country. Now, would you believe that would have been the headline for the next week or month or so? Fire Sunday night. So they don't go up on the back burner, you know. That is already on the back burner. But I am saying that all efforts, don't tell us, do the work to make sure that the person and all those who are involved are captured. Because it is clear, it is very, very clear that this was not a random thing. This thing was well planned. The suspicion that even the visit by this female had something to do with this plan to free or to allow this person to escape. Prisoner upon an ATV, he said he's shackled. Then handcuffing people. So you had a situation where Sir Mars, the man who's accused of murdering Sir Mars, is taken to the court, and we showed it was last week. He get on a shackle on the foot, no handcuff. None. In the meanwhile, Takuma Ogonse and other people who are said to be the opposition elements taken to court for some stupid charge, inciting public something. They say he's shackled, he's handcuffed, taken to court. And the man who is a mass murderer, they say he's shackled and he could run, so he's a bionic man. Shackled and he run, that's what they say. The man who is accused of murder in the Sir Mars case, he's taken to court, shackled. And I made the point last week. So you want to run, but you're not afraid of him picking up something and injuring some person as well. So that is the level of craziness that we have. Because like this handcuff thing, coming back to the handcuff, it should be standard procedure. CC mentioned it. You have to provide handcuff, and it should be standard procedure. Some time ago, we showed a video where the man, I think it was in Triumph somewhere, killed his wife, and the police just get to walk just into the back of a pickup. These people are playing with trouble, with their own safety, because the handcuff is not only to prevent the person from escaping, but it's also to prevent him from injuring you, the police, and others nearby. That is one of the purpose, and that should be standard. Once a person is arrested, handcuffed. I remember at the FBI Academy, the discussion as to why persons are handcuffed behind their back. Because in the past, they were handcuffed in front, but when you're handcuffed, you still get a lot of range of movement. A man actually pulled out the gun, sat in the vehicle, pulled out the gun from the police holster and caused injuries. I'm not sure if it's death. So they came up to counter that. You handcuff the person behind the back, so the movements are more restricted than if they're handcuffed in front. Even if your hand behind your back, it is even more difficult for you to run. All of these things, this is not reinventing the wheel. The things are there. And they say best practices. That is what they have to adopt. And these things should not be difficult. Handcuff. Why is it police going on duty don't have handcuff? We saw the one when the police was beaten on the East Coast 2 weeks ago, no rage was set. And we said police should get handcuffed, rangers get a standard equipment when they go on duty, standard equipment. But you don't have that. The prison apparently is the same thing. The man can run the safe chain, foot chain, which is debatable, and the man can jump overboard, and the man can be aided in his escape. They need to do something about all of these things. They need to do something about it. See?
Yeah, Paul, and the thing is, they say that the man, one of the perpetrators of the crime was a murder accused, former murder accused, and so far not a wanted bulletin for him. Not a wanted bulletin for him. People with minor allegations that they cannot prove, they're putting in wanted bulletin for them. And this man, they say, according to them, they say one of the perpetrators was a murder accused, former murder accused. And there's no wanted bulletin for him. And you know, they said if the prisoner somewhere in the Bartical Triangle, according to the minister, Brinsley Horatio Robson Ben, and he said that they get the area under control there, you know, lock off. I don't know, but I remember as Commander Borbis, I had where 6 men robbed 2 banks at Rose Hall, and they went in the country quick, no man's land. And our strategy, our tactics was a contain and then dominate. That you lock off the area, you don't coming out from there. You stay in there, it will take you 5-6 days, you take it 1 week. The rest is history. What we did there. All of them, all the guns and everything that we had. So I don't know if the man's still in the triangle. And they're not looking at this thing broadly. Just hey, the man in there and he's not left Guyana. You have to look at it. If sometimes the boatman may do, he's saying that the engine seized up. Perhaps there was another boat waiting there for him there, and he gone with another boat somewhere else. You got to look at the thing broadly and deeply and meticulously. But as you said, the investigation dead, fire born out the investigation. Nothing more to be said.
Well, you know, having said all of that, and then you don't know the motive of this man, but he just escaped for his freedom or so. But again, this thing is very, very serious. Yeah, Sean Aldridge was killed in the police station by gun youth. Sean saying that's exactly how Aldridge was killed because and I mentioned it on this program before. Aldridge was a young policeman at Sparndam. They stopped the vehicle outside Sparndam police station. No searching. They didn't search at gun youth. That was the name of this prisoner. He called him. They took him inside of Sparndam. The man had a gun in the crotch or the waist somewhere there. He pulled out the gun, shot and killed the police constable in the police station. Yes, so Sean, I remember that very well. I remember because I knew his mother. His mother was a bar laborer at I think it's Denhamstel police station. That's many years ago. So they're not learning from these things. They are not learning. And then we had one that was another man that said escape from the High Court. I saw this video. And then we got some laugh. When the man came out, partly the policeman was escorting him to the washroom. He jumped over the fence and ran out. But there's a strange case. They said the man escaped from custody. But then later on, when you hear the story, the man was on bail. So the man on bail, the man wasn't in custody. Right? So I don't know why the man started to escape. He's on bail. He turned up in court in the morning. He done a rape charge. So he turned up in the High Court, and the story goes that he attempted to, he asked to go to the washroom. The policeman was escorting him to the washroom. I don't know why a man who is not in police custody, because as I say, he was on bail, why he's being escorted. And then the man jumped over the rail, run out on the road, and the next day, they said the man turned up in court and tell them he's sorry, it's a mistake. And then, of course, the bail was revoked. And then he was remanded. But there's a strange story. This man on bail, This man on bail. So why did this man attempt to jump over and run away? I surmise that maybe he was sentenced that day and here he gonna get sentenced to a term of imprisonment. I don't know, but that was a strange one. But the point is, we're coming back to this thing. Prisoners have to be handcuffed. Once a person is arrested, you go through your arrest, you tell them what they're arrested for, you read them the rights, they are put into handcuff. And as I said before, the handcuff is not to prevent them from getting away, but the handcuff is also to protect you, the police officers and others around. Because the man is not handcuffed, and you show people beating up police in Guyana this time. People beating up police. So all of this you got to look at. And I'm urging the authorities because I know they are looking. I know that they are looking. And many of these things have standing orders there, that are being disregarded. Many of these things. Care and custody of prisoner is a standing order in the Guyana Police Force. Care and custody of prisoners. It is there. If it has to be revised, you revise it. You revise it. Now, let me, CC, before I go off that, any other thing you want to mention on this escape story or this free story, whatever they want to call it?
I'm wondering if there is any safe city apparatus at the prison, because we have not seen anything, not even seen the man being escorted, not even seen the activity that the thing we heard. We get amateur footage where we heard the gunshots being fired. But the thing is, spent shells. What happened with the ballistic base that the police had established some time ago that you can compare and say, hey, that's the gun that fired these cartridges was used at another location, as the case may be. Aren't they doing ballistic tests anymore? A man get a man acquire a shotgun. Do they do ballistic tests? And do they do comparison? Do they have any ballistic export? Most of these things now, you got to get ballistics. You got to have other means of investigating techniques. They're talking about safe city, and said safe city will replace boots on the ground. But are we getting anything out of the safe city so that we can make sure that we get proper conviction? This whole thing at Mazruni stinks. It stinks. And then not award. Who is the person in charge of Mazruni prison? Is there a junior person? Is there a senior superintendent or a superintendent at Mazruni prison? And a quick one too. The director of prison, he was a police. He was a 19,100 and something, trained at the police college at Adventure. Understand he was a good recruit. And then he became a constable and started, he saw well, and then he joined the prison service, did a cadet after the course, and then he moved on. Is there an officer at the Mazuni prison? This thing called for a proper inquiry from top to bottom. We had several inquiries with the prison. I remember one, a very famous one, where Desmond Height was the president that time. And he said, after the recommendations were made, he said that, hey, he cannot afford the hemorrhage. My thing is that if the blood got to flow, let the blood flow. If we got bloodletting for the prison come good, let it be. And it called for investigation from top to bottom. And that's all I need to say for the while.
And CC, when we talk about the top here, I want to remind us that the top here is the Minister of Home Affairs. The Minister of Home Affairs is the top. He in charge of prison, he in charge of fire, he in charge of police. He's the top. So if you're talking about bloodletting from the top, and here, don't let them misquote us when we talk about bloodletting. We're not talking about literal bloodletting. You read, just go and see what it means. If you got to get rid of people, then let me put it this way. You have to get rid of people. You have to get rid. I don't know what will it take for the minister to do the thing, decent thing, and say, you can't handle it. Okay, oh Lord, the other song before, oh Lord, I can't take it no more. Just say you can't take it no more, and they can't force you to stay. Move on, man. Move on. Move on. It is clear. And let me go. We spoke about the fire. We spoke about those persons who died and so on. Let me give some more over the week in dealing with fatal accidents. Biker dies, and this is a headline. Biker dies after collision with dog on Rupert Craig Highway. This happened about 3 a.m. Saturday. They said this is a fatal accident. The man riding on the Rupert Craig Highway by the hospital there, what they used to call the COVID hospital. Some dog ran across the road and he crashed into the dog and he died. And even the police released, we know these people is right, they don't think. They say he riding and the front of the motorcycle collided. Well, yeah, front of the, so you're suggesting that maybe the back of the motorcycle or the side of the motorcycle could have collided as well. Just so they're like they're very a lot of words, right? A lot of words that don't really make much sense to discerning people. And then we had Kitty resident killed in Camp Street at Church Street smash up on Sunday, where two cars approached the intersection. And I have the picture, so let me show you all the picture. Let me show you the picture. This is it here, for those who are looking. And they're saying two cars approach this intersection here. This is Camp Street run this way. Camp Street runs this way. This is Church Street runs this way. Church Street traffic is going the easterly direction. This Camp Street here, you remember Camp Street is at this point here is two carriageway, and then you come and you go the south to catch Regent Street. Now, according to the story, this car was going in this direction. They claim that the traffic light was flashing red and was obviously going at a fast rate of speed, collided with this one, and the passenger in the back of this vehicle, Miss Finance, perished. She was taken to the hospital and she died. And I learned later, sometime yesterday, it is said that this deceased person is the sister of Member of Parliament, Eureka Finance. So I want to take this opportunity. If it is so, I didn't confirm it, but that's what I'm saying. If it is so, I have to want to take to explain condolences to Eureka on this tragic. But that is what they're saying with this one. This is what the police report. This car was proceeding east. This is east, as the arrow is showing. This one was proceeding south. And as you can see, this car was already well into the intersection. But this here traveling, they say, so fast that it crashed into the rear of this vehicle. And the young lady was on the rear, and she got injuries, and she succumbed from her injuries. So you had that. And that's camp right in the middle of Georgetown, the fatal accident. Then you had the next report. Friendship man, this is the headline, you know. Friendship man dies. Let me find it. The thing, the whole computers jump around. Hold me. Let me bear with me a minute. Yeah, friendship man dies in ill-foot accident, which occurred Monday afternoon. I'll tell somebody saying that Sharon confirmed that was Eureka's sister. So yeah, it's our sister, the Member of Parliament's sister, died in this accident. Condolences to her and her the remainder of her family and friends. So you have friendship man dies in Ilford accident, which occurred Monday afternoon, that's 2 days ago. And Ilford is on the highway. The story here is that this car, driven by in which the deceased was driving, and he attempted to overtake, and he went into the part of a truck. And I saw the remains mash up. I didn't get to show it, but mash up the vehicle, and he died in that. And when you think it was over and done with, chief prisoner officer dies after crashing into a pile of sand at Melanie. This is on the East Coast at 11:55 Monday night. 11:55 Monday night. The story is he was traveling, I think, in a western direction. Came around a turn. They say that he was coming at a fast pace, and there was a pile of sand, partly part of the driveway, and the vehicle crashed into the sand. I think he was thrown out of the car, which suggests that perhaps he wasn't wearing seatbelt, and he succumbed to injuries. All within the week, all within the week. All of that, and Robesman is still there. So you get prison, the most dangerous prisoner escapes. You got the fire service and all the story at the Madja school, right? You get $300 million at police quartermaster store. You got $300 million fraud I'm talking about at the police finance officer. He reported that in Parliament in 2021. You didn't know about that. He reported to how many guns missing from the police. Like shortly after they came into office, you hearing anything about that. So many things are happening under this minister, all of these fires. When you had the fire of Brickdam, you talk about intellectual author. You had a fire at Eve Leary, he said the same thing. There's only looking for intellectual authors, so they should send him, let him go and do his research to find who these intellectual authors are. But you're sour, you need to take a rest. You need to take a rest. Everything under your ministry. Then, of course, don't forget, you have his PS, the permanent secretary to the minister, traveling to China and transit in the United States, Miami, and we know what happened. The people arrested her, interrogated her for over 3 hours, seized her phone, revoked her visa. All of these things happening in the ministry. All of these things happening in this ministry. So you have to ask the question, I don't know what more it will take for the minister to decide that he enabled them all, this thing is beyond him, to resign, or for them to tell you, go home, take a rest, buddy. Take a long rest. Even if you want to resign, you want to save face, tell them you want a 1-year leave to reconsider. Write your memoir or something like that. Right? Yeah, Denise, I mentioned the boxing story already at the start with the lady yesterday afternoon on the truck. So all of these things you have. All of these things you have. Fire, you're getting problem with fire. You're getting problem with prison. You get problem with police. And you sit there presiding over these agencies and you are not accountable? You are not accountable? Perhaps you never heard about the concept of vicarious liability. Maybe you never heard that. But you, as a minister, you have to set your policies. And apparently there are no policy to deal with these issues. Not to talk about all the gun run-ins we are going on in the ministry. There are so many things that are wrong in that ministry. Go home and look after grandchildren, man. Go home, take a rest. Go and look after, give somebody else a chance. Give somebody else a chance. If they could find, I'm sure they could find, but see, they're going to look for somebody who they can manipulate. And that is the problem. That is the problem. So, CC, let me bring you to say anything more about Mr. Ben. Any advice you have to give Mr. Ben? I see Corinne Ben is here. What if she's a family? Sorry, what if Corinne is the minister family? See, I wanted the listeners say, I want the viewers is Corinne. Corinne, are you a relative of the minister? If you are, can you please go and advise you that you should take a rest? You know, Tradewin sing a song, Take a Rest. You should sing that song with him. CC, any advice you have to give?
I said on several episodes that things are happening under the very nose of the minister. Under the very nose of the minister. Recently, we had a PS. You mentioned how the allegations, the things that happened to her at Miami. They had to slam her into a wall, put handcuff on her, revoke her visa. And then she said she had an interaction with them. Things happening there. And a lot of things happening too, you know. I wonder what's happening with the driver and the secretary who on Christmas Day 2 years ago uplifted hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine a secretary and a driver going into Orange Police Station, Port Kaitumo Police Station, according to documents, and Kaikan to conduct investigation. And I wonder what happened to the person who approved that money. And I wonder if it's still going on, the bogus accounts being submitted by particularly ranks in region number 1. Bogus account being submitted where they said the money would be paid into the welfare fund that they broke. And look out, the celebration at Letem. Over 100 policemen went there. They hired a whole set of vehicle. I think they're presently sleeping at a certain police, a certain school. I hope it isn't grill like the one at March in case anything. Some of them sleeping on benches and desks. What is it? The financial costs. Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. I understand a lot of bogus accounts are being prepared. A lot of bogus accounts are circulated. And the big talk at headquarters, money got for make. Let me repeat, money got for make for this exercise for the over 100 and something ranks that are presently at Letem in relation to the independence celebration. And I repeat what I say, money got for make.
Money got for make, man. Money got for make. I put up Corinne. Corinne said, absolutely not, Mr. Slow. She's not a relative of Ropes and Brock Ben. She's not a relative. So, yeah, well, you're not a relative. People don't want to associate with certain persons. She's not a relative. And you're right. All of those things over the years, this thing, where this man approving all them hundreds of thousands of people to go and do, his secretary and his driver, all this corruption, I am sure those things were corrupt. And no investigation, nothing at all, nothing. Nothing comes out of these things. So that is why the slackness will continue. Nothing is done. It's a bird, they are birds of a feather. So they're flocking together. And that is what is happening. Now let me move on. I got a report, people just ask you all kind of thing. And I can call his name, I'll show you on mine. The guy, he mentioned it on his program. Mr. Amsterdam, guy in the morning time. I think it was Monday or something that he mentioned that on Friday, he got word, police went to his home, say they have an arrest warrant for him. And he explained that he wanted to know what this arrest warrant was for. He later realized that it might have been the case where he was charged for using a noisy instrument some time ago. I think it was publicized. He was one of these protest line, using a noisy instrument. He was charged, he went to court, he pleaded not guilty. The police gave evidence, he has his attorney. The police gave evidence, and having given evidence, I think it got to the stage where the magistrate might have said that is a prima facie case made out against him for him to lead his defense. And I understand that according to him on his program, the magistrate then decided the matter was going to be postponed. No date was given. This, according to him, no date was given, but the magistrate said that they were going to communicate with them. The court will communicate to the defendant and his attorney when is the next date. They never received any such communication. But then he claims that this arrest warrant was issued in respect of the same matter. And then he learned that the magistrate continued the matter and fined him 26 or 27,000 Guyana dollars, which is just over 100 US dollars. Fine. So he say he paid the fine and all of that. But I have a lot of issues here that I want to clarify and highlight, and I'm sure my colleague, Mr. Conway, will help me out here. Now, if it is that the person went to court and the magistrate decides that, look, the matter is to be put off to a next date, and the person did not turn up, then the magistrate really can't issue arrest warrant just like that. The arrest warrant can only be issued once the magistrate is satisfied. If the man was summoned to attend court and he failed to do so, if at the previous hearing he was told when he had to return, so he knew that he had to return, he did not return, or a message the police had warned him. And if the police warned him to attend court, then the police has to go in the witness box and give evidence that this man was warned to attend court. And on the basis of that, the magistrate can issue a warrant. Or if they have summoned him, you can get a return of service. And again, I'm talking here for these young policemen to understand. And based on the return of service, the magistrate can issue an arrest warrant for you. But you have to satisfy certain conditions before an arrest warrant is issued. To make the thing more mysterious, he said that it's fine. Now, once the magistrate finds you, the normal thing is that you're fined and you are given, it is $25,000 or maybe 1 week in jail or 2 weeks in jail. And in most cases, that person is given a time to pay the fine. So the fine has to be paid by a particular time. If the fine is not paid by that particular time, you're gonna arrest warrant is what we used to call a CW. It's a commitment warrant, no arrest warrant. So this matter it need to be clarified, and I did indicate to people that look, y'all need to follow up to see if, because the magistrate can't issue an arrest warrant if the magistrate finds you. In other words, the matter is concluded at that level. If you want to appeal, then there's another level. But once the magistrate pronounce on the sentence, the fine, they're done. That is finished. If you are present, you can, and the virtual complainant or the complainant is there, you can give notice of appeal in open court. If they are not there, then they go through the process and you appeal. But once the magistrate find you, listen to this young policeman, once the magistrate say you're fined $25,000, the magistrate then can't issue no warrant. In some cases, the magistrate can say you must pay the fine right away, right? But can't issue no arrest warrant. The magistrate then, if the fine is not paid within a stipulated time, whatever that time is, a commitment warrant is issued. In other words, a warrant issued for you to go to jail, not for you to arrest, because an arrest warrant is for you to be arrested and taken before the magistrate. That is what an arrest warrant is. To be taken before a magistrate or judge, you get an arrest warrant. But if it is that a fine was imposed, then it cannot be an arrest warrant. It has to be a commitment warrant. CC, help me out here, man. Help me out. You're old police too, like.
You're quite correct, and I saw as an orderly for several magistrates, some even became judges. And the thing is that if the magistrate, the magistrate have to tell you need to get a notification that when the case would have for. But then even the magistrate decided, I know it was a he or she, the magistrate decided, hey, look, I find you guilty. I'm going to set a date for you to come so I could pass the sentence on you. Nothing wrong with that, but you must be notified. But if in the absence of that, you're quite correct that the magistrate can fine you, and then later on a commitment warrant will issue for you. Say either you pay the sum of $25,000 or you go to prison. And if in court, and I'm getting back to the way where you can appeal, if the magistrate say you're guilty, you can appeal. And what those old police used to do, let me call them old police, is that if they feel that the magistrate is that the person is going to appeal, before the passing of the sentence, they tell you the complainant, look, come out of court. So you leave the
Exactly.
courtroom
The
and you're
complainant,
going your way.
the complainant is not there. So, and this is the thing that the police these young policemen got to learn, because
Yeah,
an appeal in court, what we call the appeal in court, can only be entertained if the complainant is present.
yeah,
So many of them smart old police, once you see the matter going in a certain way, you disappear out of the place, so they can't give appeal in open court.
open court,
Cannot
yeah,
The appeal in open court cannot be entertained because the complainant, and even if they say they appeal in the open court, the magistrate will ask, is the complainant present?
yeah,
Yes, the complainant is present, so the appeal in open court has some it can go into effect. Thank you, Franklin. Franklin saying you're correct and to the point. I mean, Franklin, you ought to know that we don't come on this program to bullshit people and to talk nonsense. Forget about all of these cockabelly and the cockroach and the jagabots and the amphibians, what has come. They come with this ad hominem attack. In other words, they're not listen to the story. The attack was slow and Conway. You got to educate these young people. And we're saying, whoever the magistrate is, whether it's a he or she, I say again that given the circumstances that were related to me, and I'm saying it is right, so I'm telling you, so don't go and say Pastor say the magistrate can't issue an arrest warrant. Under those circumstances where the person is fined, even if the magistrate had said that the fine must be paid immediately, the warrant to be issued is not, and the fine is not paid. Because once you impose a fine, it's only when the fine is not paid within the stipulated period, then you can take the next action, which is commitment warrant. which is commitment warrant. And a commitment warrant for the education of you is a warrant committing you to the prison. Is the warrant committing you to the prison? So unless the prison authorities get a commitment warrant, they have no authority to admit you. So let me understand this. The difference between an arrest warrant, the arrest warrant is where you're arrested to be taken before a magistrate or a judge. An arrest warrant is issued by them. The arrest warrant to be taken. So the magistrate issue, they call them to say bench warrant. But the commitment warrant is what the police corporate communication unit, they call, what do they call? They call it sentencing warrant. It's a commitment warrant. It commits you to go to the prison. Right? So we need to understand, arrest warrant, you're arrested by the police, you're taken to the court. And the arrest warrant is only issued when the judge or the magistrate is satisfied that you knew you had to attend court and you did not. How are they going to be sure about that? At the last hearing, you were present and you were told to return at a particular date on a particular time. The records of the court indicates that you were so, or the records indicate that you were so warned when you were in court the last time. In this case, you weren't told when to go back. So what they're going to do, police can either summon you. They issue a summon for you to go to court. Now, if you fail to attend court, the police, that summons is back. They're in the case jacket, as the case may be. So the return of the service is going to use as evidence that you were, in fact, summoned to go to court. They can also come and warn you personally. A message is sent for this person to attend court. If you fail to attend, the prosecutor will say that you were warned. Who warned you? Constable Jones. Constable Jones has to go in the witness box and give the evidence that he went to you, he saw you, he spoke to you, he tell you got to go to court, you acknowledge. They might have other evidence where records are made at the station and all that. Those things are presented. Therefore, and the magistrate is then satisfied that you knew that you had to attend court, you failed to attend, a warrant is then issued for your arrest. A warrant is issued for your arrest. So let's understand this clearly, young police in particular, how this thing works. CC, anything more on that?
You're quite clear, Paul. Quite clear.
But these things, these young policemen is unfortunate. I suspect even some of the senior, you say your grandma used to say she's got cabbage, but she ain't green. But them this cabbage and everything.
Cabbage looking, but not green.
But she ain't green. These people, and many of the senior ones too, they don't know these things. They're not read, they're not white red, they don't have training sessions and all these things now. So as I've said repeatedly, as we have said repeatedly, that is why we come here and we tell you these things. I mean, the style might be, you might not like the style in which these things are put over, but it's for you to learn. It's for you to learn about, in this case, the arrest warrant, the commitment warrant, and all of that. Because as I've said, and let me say this, I forgot, I omitted this part. That once if a commitment warrant is issued, they tell you $25,000, you fail to pay the fine, you're arrested for commitment warrant. The warrant states that the reason why it is issued is because you failed to pay the fine. So you can then go and pay the fine. The fine can be paid at the appropriate place, and you would have you'd have discharged your duties to pay the fine. So yes, so even when a commitment warrant is issued, that's providing the warrant speaks to a fine. But if a current warrant for you to be sentenced to jail, 3 months, 1 year, whatever it is, the police only arrest you, and when the police arrest you, all they have to do is take you to the prison, whether it's Georgetown or wherever, and they hand you over to them, and based on the warrant, they are going to admit you into their custody. That is what is going to be done. CC, tell me that I'm wrong.
You are correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, so for all of these people listening, I will say again, especially not only the young police, as I've said, not only the young police, the older ones as well. Because as I've said repeatedly, I don't blame some of them, They are thrust into these positions. They don't have the necessary training. No attempt is made for them to be prepared for these senior positions that they are put in. So they are not to be blamed totally. They are not to be blamed totally. So we try on this program to shine you, as we would say, to shine you. Now moving on. The same talking about CC mentioned this wanted bulletin thing. I don't know, as he said, it's really perhaps feels just surprising that and I've said this wanted bulletin story is being abused. People wanted bulletin are issued for people. We have numerous cases, no effort made to have them arrested. They are known, their addresses are known. Sometimes the first time people know that the police want them is when somebody call them and say, hey, I look on social media and I see you wanted. Then is the first time, no attempt made to go where these people live or to leave a message or to apprehend them. None. You have this case, the most recent case with a couple who they say wanted for money laundering or something like that. Big thing on social media, police put out wanted bulletin. People turn themselves in the next day in the company of the liar. And the story that they related perhaps is not totally surprising. The people said they were shocked when they saw this wanted bulletin because they are witnesses in a matter that is being prosecuted by SOCU. Both of them are witnesses in some money laundering case. And the police have been in constant contact and communication with them. The lady reported that only a few days, perhaps a week before, somebody from SOCU called and spoke to her. So Sister SOCU had been in regular contact with them. So you could imagine their shock when they learned that a wanted bulletin had been issued for them. And the lawyer explained that they went the next day because at the time they were out of town and couldn't get back during the day, so they went the next day. And the question is this: they wanted bulletin issued, the people turned themselves in. I ain't hear nothing more. Because I know normally with certain people once you turn in, is at 72 you get in. They lock you up for 72 hours and then they take you before the court or they put you on bail after 72 hours in custody. I have not heard, perhaps I was not, I've not been keeping as abreast as I should, but I have not heard anything further on this. All I know that they turned themselves in. I don't know if they were given bail. I don't know if they were kept in custody. And therefore, again, these are things that need to be clarified. How do you issue a wanted bulletin for persons that you are in contact with? You know where they live. It's an abuse. And it is time people call it out. It is time some of these liars challenge this thing, where the police, without making any effort to locate a person who they want as a suspect in a matter, issues a wanted bulletin for them, tarnishing your image. It's gone all over the world that the police want you. All over. Police want you in this matter. And you turn yourself in, you normally get a 72, and then they come up with some Jim Cat bring Ram Goat story. So CC, again, I got to invite you to give your take on this disturbing new trend with the police where wanted bulletin without even making any effort to locate the person.
Well, there's a trend on it, but this current case with those persons from the East Coast, I heard the lawyer, and he said that he has instructed his clients not to give any statement to the police, not to answer any question. I am surprised that so far Romana has not pulled him in and talked to him about perverting the course of justice, as he did with the female lawyer who was arrested. So I'm surprised. I'm looking forward to hearing Romana say, "Hey, come in by, you're perverting the course of justice. You're telling your clients them not to make any statement to the police, that they have a right to remain silent."
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Because when the young lawyer, Miss Clark, advised our client not to give any statement to the police, and they told her to come back at a particular time, and Romana is alleged to have told her, counsel, when you come back, counsel may need counsel, because if you maintain your position at your client should not give a statement to the police, we're going to arrest you. And when the lady returned and maintained the advice to our client, she was arrested. She was arrested by the people at SOCU. That matter too, I think they sued them and all this everything. But yeah, so I think the Santos, I think the name of this lawyer is. So you got to watch out. The police might issue a wanted bulletin for him now for perverting the courts of justice in that he advised his client not to give a statement to the police. He has to look out. He has to be on the alert because it looked like that is the modus. If you advise as a lawyer, you advise your client to remain silent, that suddenly becomes an offense. That suddenly becomes something against the law. So he needs to watch out. But it's an abuse. There's no doubt. And let me say this, because some of these cockroaches has come and say, oh, you've been there. Yeah, we were there. Them things never, ever happened when I was a commander. Never happened, wanted bulletin. Never happened. Never happened. So we got to understand. So when they come and they say, well, you've been there, well, you just right to tell one this week, say something to that effect. I say you must go and do your research. And if you do research, you're going to see what Paul Slow and what Clinton Conway did to deal with corruption when they were in the system. So don't come with your laziness, your intellectually laziness, to ask what you to do and what I think to do. We did. I did. And it is there for anyone to see. And even recently, we did. So when the president wanted us to get into this corrupt scheme to promote people who weren't eligible, as members of the Police Service Commission, we stood up and we said, nah, that ain't happening. That is not going to happen. So we stood up to that corrupt act. And we end up with some trumped up charge. And 2 years passed since. And nothing happening. 2 years. I mentioned it last week. 2 years, the 19th of May 2021, Conway was arrested. The next day, 20th, they appeared in court. And since then, the matter has been dragging. Matters are now set for, is it the 9th? I think it's the 9th of, CC, the 9th of June?
Yeah, I think it's the 9th at 10 o'clock or thereabouts.
Somewhere at June. So yeah, we did. So don't come with this rubbish. Don't come. Let me see if you got anything else here for us to talk before I invite you to give your closing remarks. Now, going back to this fire, before we close, going back to the fire, because it's a topical thing. The file, they say, either was sent or is going to be sent to the DPP. Let's wait and hear what the DPP will say, because as we have said, this is not a case alone for the person who is alleged to have started the fire. If you want to talk about criminal act, you also have to speak to those who locked those children in the dormitory. You also have to make sure that the people who authorize the place to be grilled up are also dealt with. Yeah, it's a lot of things. Inspection of the building, how often did they inspect? Whatever records they have of the building being inspected. And you want to tell me you have fire inspector and other inspector inspect this dormitory, saw these grills, and did not recommend corrective actions? They did not see that was a disaster waiting to happen. So if we are going to talk about DPP, I hope the DPP pronounce on this thing in a very holistic way. CC, your closing remarks, please.
Just briefly to get back to, I remember when as commander in charge, let me call your name to Asif Mohammed for offering me a bribe. As an assistant commissioner, I went to court on 32 occasions for trial. They're waiting for me to attend court and they're going to also to dismiss the matter. I went to 32 occasions. I gave evidence, came under rigorous cross-examination, and the guy was convicted. Now, the fire where those children died, it is a homicide. And I'm shocked with the speed in which they said which they rushed to send the file to the DPP. I'm certain that many critical elements have not been covered. One of the major one is that they up to now they don't have the cause of death for at least 13 persons. A lot of forensic investigation has got to be done. Thorough forensic investigation. Understand a forensic scientist from Barbados is here. Now, I want to leave a quote. I said it before, talk about the homicide investigator. It's by Arthur Westweaver, and it's management of that in his book, 701 pages. I have it here. And hear what he said. And this is what I used to instill in all of my investigators who are investigating homicide. This is what I used to drill in the head. And here it is. Let me quote. No greater honor will ever be bestowed on an officer or a more profound duty imposed on him than when he's entrusted with the investigation of the death of a human being. It is his duty to find the facts, regardless of color or creed, without prejudice, and to let no power on earth deter him from presenting these facts to the court without regards to personality. This is a very profound statement, and this is why I used to make sure that my investigator lives by. I don't know what's happening now, but I want to commit this statement here to all persons, all homicide investigators. You investigating homicide, let this be your guiding principle. And for the sake of emphasis, let me go over it one more time. No greater honor will ever be bestowed on an officer or a more profound duty imposed on him than when he's entrusted with the investigation of the death of a human being. It is his duty to find the facts, regardless of color or creed, without prejudice, and to let no power nor deter him from presenting the facts to the court without regards to personality. And I told you.
That's my brother. Thank you very much for your contribution. I know we continue to mourn the loss of all of those lives, especially the lives of those children. So thank you much. Now, let me say, as I close today, it has been a terrible week. And our week is on Wednesday. The last program was Wednesday. And today, a terrible week. All these deaths. We talk about the 19 tragic losses in this fire. Teenagers, imagine that teenage girls. Can you imagine the horror that they would have gone through during that ordeal? Can you imagine? And then when you look at the insensitivity of the persons in the authority parading those persons at the Yana last night, they have no shame? They don't have a conscience? Somebody, they can't understand that these children are traumatized. And the worst thing or the last thing you want to do is to be parading them in the public less than 48 or 72 hours after such an horrific incident. But they don't really care. They're looking for their photo opportunity. So they really don't care. And here what's going to happen, I predict 3 days of mourning. We learn the thing Friday afternoon. Thereafter, is forget about everything else, party and sport. The nation will forget about all that took place there. The fact that the most dangerous prisoner is on the loose with accomplices. And the fact that people are grieving and mourning. Nobody care. Look out for all the big shows and all them type of things. This week is Independence Celebration Week. For those of you who may not know, can get me from all over watching this show. Guyana attained independence from Great Britain on the 26th of May, 1966. So the independent anniversary is just around the corner, right? And so that is going to happen. People are going to go back by Saturday and Swan. It's big sporting and Swan. You forget about those children. Forget about all the statements that they're going to be making, prayers and thoughts and prayers. All that is just what it is, thoughts and prayers. Nothing is going to happen. But having said that, I remain a little optimistic that somewhere somebody going to realize that these dormitories with grill and no firefighting equipment and no properly training of those forces with fire drill to respond to emergencies like this, I am hoping that this will be the catalyst to bring about the change in that arrangement. I'm hoping. If this does not, well, then we really, really lost. If having at this incident, which claimed the life of 19 so far, because they are saying that I think 2 or 3 are still critical in hospital. If they don't take this and make sure that the whole system is reviewed, and when we talk about system, we talk about personnel as well. That is why I say it's about time Minister take a rest. Minister Ben should take a rest. If they don't use this opportunity, then divine intervention. God got to help us. So, folks, as I've said, it has been a terrible week between Wednesday and this morning, yesterday afternoon, more precisely. It has been a terrible period with all of those deaths. Destruction by fire, destruction by accident. Terrible for some people more than others. Terrible more than others. And I want to use this platform to encourage all of us to be safe. I say with COVID, as I indicated before, is no longer a global pandemic. It is still around. You got to take precautions. But in Ghana, you have a pandemic named road accidents. And we have got to make sure that we do everything to be safe. And I continue to say that you can be the safest driver there is. But defensive driving techniques suggest that you should look out for the jackass who is on the road. You have to do that. Now, you might be safe, but if you're not looking out for the man who is unsafe and dangerous, you are likely to be involved in this. And I close by again saying this public, what they call it, the police cooperation unit, the public communication unit, whatever it is called. Stop the propaganda. Do work. All of this going on with all of these accidents and so on. I have not seen a single public service notice for you to be trying to educate people. In other words, you're making big noise and you're flavoring the stage, dance competition, food eating, cook-up rice competition. That is what they're focusing on when you have all of these tragic incidents, accidents. Because they're making a distinction between incidents and accidents. So I suspect the one where the man ran into the dog on the East Coast outside the infectious disease hospital, that is not an accident, that is an incident. I suspect the one where the prison officer died, came around a turn, crashed into a pile of sand on the road, and died. That is not an accident, that is an incident. But I want to remind you all of the Roads Act and the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, what the definition for road is. Go and look at the definition. And once these accidents occur on a road, whether it's a multi-vehicle accident, or whether a man run off the road into a trench, or into a utility pole, or into a pile of sand, or into a dog, they are all classified as accidents. And if person dies as a result, then it is a fatal accident. So do whatever you want to cook the book and manipulate the figure, and all of a sudden you're talking about, no, this is not a fatal accident, it's an incident. People die on the road, that is the point. People die and people are dying on the roads, and that is what you have to address. Not trying to differentiate between accidents and incidents and fooling yourselves. Because once you continue to fool yourselves, then you're not going to be able to take measures to address the issue. And that is where we talk about policy, the Ministry of Home Affairs and the minister, they have to come in. That is where the government has to come in to provide resources and direction and guidance. But they are not doing that. A lot of photo opportunity and a lot of propaganda. So, folks, I have said a lot today. And as I said, it hurts me to see what took place there at Madja with those innocent children. I am pained as a parent myself. Can you imagine what those parents are going through? You send your child to go to school, and the news that you're going to get is that they died under such circumstances, preventable circumstances. There was no need to have that place grilled in that manner. And then to compound the matter, these Nancy stories that are being told by the ministry and others. Nancy stories insulting people's intelligence, insulting this again, the person or the care woman or whoever they call her. There, the minister is saying that she was in the building. The girls went there to arouse her, and when she went to the door was locked from the inside, and she got confused. How is it that she wasn't injured? Who rescued her if she was inside? People on the ground say no, she was not inside, she was nearby. And then she ran to the building. Some people suggestion that she couldn't find the key and all other confusion. And if you continue to cover up, then proper remedies and solutions are not going to be arrived at. We need to face it. Call a spade a spade. If people mess up, they must bear the consequences. But no, you don't want that, because the question you're going to ask how she get a job and whether it is true, this friend's, family, and favorite thing. All other questions are going to be asked. And that is why you're trying to avoid. So my loyal viewers, friends, I say again, be safe. God spare life. Next week, Wednesday at 11 o'clock, we'll be here again for another episode of Speaking Out, exposing corruption and incompetence. And there are lots of corruption and incompetence. Until then, have a good week. Bye.